Hey there, out on a hike today with the C70 and the RF 35mm 1.8. This is a super special lens, and don't let the price fool you. It is very inexpensive, but it's packed with value, and I want to get into that today. Now, this is a 35mm lens, but when it's on the C70 with the Super 35 sensor, it's going to be between 51 and 53mm full frame equivalent. And I shoot a lot with zoom lenses, but frankly, if I want to pick one prime lens to keep in my bag, it's going to be a 50. And so this is kind of what that is. And you can see that, you know, you can use this for a wide variety of things. 50mm is super versatile, and this is a great lens. Just finishing up the hike. It is a beautiful fall day. I'm absolutely loving it outside today. But I'm with the family and we gotta head home, but I have more to tell you about this lens. Back home now, and I have a bunch more to talk about in regards to this lens. I think the big thing that you guys are probably wondering about is the autofocus. Now, first of all, this is on the C70, which does not have as good autofocus as cameras like the R5 and R6. I made a video about that. I'll leave that link down below if you want to check out that comparison. And if you've used this lens on any of those mirrorless cameras, you know the autofocus is a little bit on the slow side, and it can be a problem. So I want to show you that it does work pretty well. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it is pretty accurate. So first of all, for this test here, I'm on face priority, and I have the speed set on 0. Now let's check the autofocus when the autofocus speed is set to the maximum of +2. Another cool feature about this is that it is a macro lens. I don't have a ton of experience with macro lenses, but let me show you what it can do here. And this is using autofocus. Super cool. I am probably only a couple inches away from the lens. So again, just a cool little feature that's kind of thrown in there. You can see the focus taking a little while to get back to me, but because I was super close, and I think that's kind of expected when you are really, you know, up close with the macro capabilities. But another cool little feature that's thrown in here, I think this could be really cool for doing like product shots and B-roll and stuff like that. So having that the ability to focus pretty close is really cool. Because we're shooting on the C70, we are shooting video, and we might be concerned about focus breathing. So let me show you that. And I can also show you that the focus throw is pretty long, and which makes it really nice for manually focusing. A lot of the shots I did at the beginning of this video was using manual focus, and it is quite easy to set focus. But, you know, it does have quite a bit of focus breathing, but kind of what you expected in a lens of this cost. As I said, this lens is packed full of features, and one thing I want to talk about is it has image stabilization. So this is without any image stabilization in the lens or the body. And this is with stabilization turned on in the lens. And this is with stabilization in the lens and the electronic in the body. You can see it's punched in just a little bit. Back inside, and there's a couple more things I want to talk about. First of all, image quality. You saw it at the beginning of the video. It's outstanding. For the price of this lens, and even beyond the price of this lens, I think it does great. It's nice and sharp, has good color rendition, the bokeh looks nice, you can get pretty good depth of field on it, so I think that's just awesome. So let's talk about build quality. Well, you can see that it is all plastic, which you'd expect for this price point, but it is a very nice compact little lens, not very heavy. It does have dedicated switches, which I love for autofocus and manual focus, and also for the stabilization on and off. I love to see that. In terms of the rings on the camera, it's got one for focus, dedicated focus ring, and then this is the customizable ring that you can have on your camera that you can set to whatever you want. I tend to just leave it to nothing because I just hit it by accident and then making changes on my camera. So on the back, it does have a metal lens mount, which is great. It doesn't have weather sealing, but it's kind of what you expect here. On the front is another thing I want to mention here. It has a very small front filter diameter, and that sometimes it can be hard to put you know, filters and stuff on this. So if you are not using this on a C70, it might be tough to get an ND filter on here, but if you're using polarizers, diffusion filters, stuff like that, it is pretty small. And the other thing is that the lens does move in and out as it focuses, so it might be something of concern if you put a bunch of filters on here. So another thing to keep in mind. But overall, I think the build quality is decent for the price. It does have a nice feel to it, even though it's plastic and it is very light. And I think the fact that it's pretty light is great when you're considering traveling, hiking, or just getting an extra lens in your bag. And one thing about the RF lenses, as you guys know, there aren't a lot of options. So if you are, trying to stick with native mount on this camera, there are only so many options. And because it's a Super 35 sensor, you do have that 1.5-ish crop factor that, this is a 1.8 lens. And so to get a fast lens on there that's pretty inexpensive and native, I think this is a really good bet. Another thing is, just form factor altogether. So when we put this on the C70, it really does look like a very small camera. Here it is mounted on the C70, and you can see that it is a pretty small form factor. I think one of the reasons why I've been attracted to the C70 is that it's a really great way to get a small cinema camera. So it's not that heavy, it's not that big, it's not that hard to pack away. And the other thing about having a small package like this is that you might be able to pull it out in situations where, you can be a little more inconspicuous and, not draw a lot of attention to yourself, because usually when you pull out a cinema camera, it's a big ordeal. This is very compact. The fact that it has an RF mount on it keeps it really tight to the camera because you don't need an adapter. I also think the fact that, with the RF mount and with the, C70 being Super 35, to get a fast lens on this is a 1.8 for the price that it is awesome. You can get some really nice depth of field because, you're at roughly 50 millimeters, and I think that's fantastic. Other use cases for this, I think it's great for basically a talking head situation. It does great with, as I said, with autofocus on very simple situations. As one of my last videos I recorded this whole thing with this lens just to see how it would do, and the focus looked great. The background looked nice and blurry. Colors looked good. I was really happy with the way it performed. So you could also use this on, if you have an R5 or R6, it's a great 35 millimeter lens. You can do all sorts of stuff. You guys know that 35 millimeter lenses are just, very, very versatile. So again, great little lens to have on this camera. And for the price, I think it's kind of unbeatable. Usually I think it goes for $450 or $500. It's currently on sale for $400. So I'll leave a link down below if you guys want to pick one up. I really think it's a great thing to have in your kit. And it's very versatile for not just this camera, but other RF mount cameras that you guys might have or might have in the future. So hope you found this helpful, and thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. Greatly appreciated. And we'll see you in the next one.